Hey, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We are starting our machine learning writing club. Um, well, while we want it to be focused on data and AI and ML, but we encourage interdisciplinary research here. Now, a little bit about GDG Surrey. We started last year and we have around 700 plus members on our platform and a following of around 100, sorry, 1,100 people. We run all sort of events from say conference to just simple meetups of 10, 12 people and just discuss about what we are doing, what kind of projects we have, or if somebody has a new initiative, they can walk up to us and we can always work together. The entire story about GDG Surrey is the initial. Why did I start this community? And we have a team of around 8 to 10 members. We started it to leverage the resources that were out there, whether it's the experts or um, as simple as the cloud support. I'm lucky to have this team. I'm the only one from the team today, and Sergey here is helping us with another initiative, and he's also a team member now. So the other team members are kind of busy at the moment, but this is a volunteer-led community, so it's mostly whoever finds the time leads the initiative. So yeah, this is our team looks like, and it's getting bigger and bigger with all the events and collaboration. It's more like a family now, and yeah, everybody can walk up and tell the initiative, and we all welcome it. This for this particular initiative, we have created this Discord channel for any kind of discussion and collaboration, which I'll share later as well. But for now, we'll just get started with it. The whole purpose of this is to discuss in collaboration about from how do we start the research paper till literally publishing it somewhere. That's the aim. And this is a collaborative discussion. So we may or may not have answers to all of the questions, when we write, but that's why we are working in a group so that you find that support system, which sometimes we lack when we are doing the same thing alone. So that's pretty much it about the community. I'm super excited, and I would leave it to Anuj to explain more about things. Anuj, you're on mute.
Thank you, Preeti. Thanks for reminding. So, very warm welcome again, everyone. And Elizabeth, hope your audio issues are resolved. Uh, if not, if you don't understand anything, just let us know, and I'm happy to re-explain. Okay. Now, writing a research paper, it sounds daunting. It sounds like somebody who is like a scientist wearing those big glasses working in a lab with a white coat and everything. It's a job for those kind of people, like the professors that we see in colleges and big guys, But it is not that. It's far from that, in fact. And through the few slides, I'd like to explain the rationale of how it is not that daunting and why should anyone pursue, Uh, I know we have members who are new new to this research paper and writing and reading and everything. And first and foremost, right, research paper forces you to develop necessary critical thinking skills, which you will be able to sort of leverage in industry. and it helps you overall in all the stages of your career while you're a student or an established industry professional or looking for a job and so on and so forth. Research paper gives you the credibility to your credentials. It helps you not just write your resume, but it helps you build your resume. I was recently talking to one of the senior leaders who owns a company who makes drones and big stuff, you know. And one of the key uh, distinctions, you know, he said that he wants to hire people who he is able to see the holistic profile of, not just resume, not just LinkedIn people and LinkedIn profile, but when you write something, you get a notice in something like a Google Scholar or your publication, and now you are you're getting a much wanted recognition and fame to showcase your skills. You know, so without ado, let's move to next slide. Uh, why students should do it? You know, so as I talked earlier, right? Critical development skills. You need to understand few things like how to understand your data, how to analyze your results. All of this activity help you develop critical skills that are necessary to succeed in industry. Almost all the good schools at this point want some kind of research paper or some kind of publication from students. Again I said, to see holistically where they stand in the sea of applicants. You know, you need something to stand out. Research paper gives you that credibility. There are multiple ways to gain that credibility, but traditionally in academia, research papers and publications have been one strongest evidence that people are able to relate to, because the professor or the dean who is going to review or admit application, they in their career would have gained and written some research papers themselves. So they know the effort that is needed to write the research paper and sincerity that is needed to write the research paper. So they are able to sort of all of sort of quickly relate to you, and that matters a lot. Somebody who's reviewing your application, if they're able to relate to you while let's say you apply for Cornell or University of British Columbia or any of the Ivy League schools, or Harvard or Stanford, that matters a lot. How do you stand out? This is a one great way to stand out. Also, while you write research paper, it opens your doors to collaborations and networking, you know. And just like we are meeting here, you will be able to meet community of researchers who are working hard, and you're able to sort of collaborate on similar ideas and similar topics and gain deeper understanding of the topics you already know and you already are learning. Uh, it puts you into the state of accelerated uh, experience gain. Uh, Before I jump to the next slide, right, Preeti, you have a personal story to share here. Why you chose, while you're still being student and helping students to write your first research paper, why don't you share it so people get sort of great insights
Sure,
into it?
definitely. Thank you for the opportunity. Before I share my story, I almost forgot to give a background to everybody about you, Anuj. Um, so,
Okay.
for those who don't know, Anuj is an expert in data visualization and application development. He specializes in JavaScript technology like React, Angular, and Node.js. He is a IEEE senior member, and he also engages in the tech community by publishing articles. I have read his articles on Bzone, and they're amazing. And he also participates in technical panels for conferences and hackathons. And what from my last interaction with Anuj, I know is that he's also reviewing the books on machine learning and JavaScript. So I'm pretty sure this is going to be incredibly helpful for everybody you mentor and you collaborate with. Now about me, why did I
Thanks,
choose?
Preeti. I mean, thanks for your kind words.
Thank you. I'm happy that we are collaborating. Um, for me, it's a bit of a combination of uh, curiosity, family history, and as well as the market. You know how the market right now is. So building my portfolio. So when it comes to the family medical history, I wouldn't really go there, but a couple of concerns. I wrote my first paper about um, in the accessibility domain about visually impaired people and how to help them with the automating tactile generation. And that happened because I am facing some challenges with vision. I have some family history. And then finally, out of curiosity, I ended up also creating a project in the same domain um, that won the hackathon. And then finally, I saw myself struggling in this job market as well, and I did not really wanted to let this opportunity go of where I could really use my expertise. I know my project, and I have written the technical documentation of that and everything I'm doing for that particular domain, and I'm kind of researching, right? But I don't know about it, and I have like documents and documents I'm reading through research papers. So why can't I just uh, at the same time focus on showcasing it to others? You know, it can just help as a first step to others too, while I also, get to showcase it on my resume or my portfolio. And I did not know. But yes, I had a good mentor who pointed out that you can definitely do it because you created the project, and there are just as you said, Anuj, and to everybody, he's my mentor. As you said, it looks like that they are scientists. You know, whoever is writing, they have this big hat on and the glasses. I do have glasses, of course, but it literally was like that for me too. I had everything done to complete that project. I have a POC, but I don't know how to publish it, and I don't really want to go on LinkedIn and just make a blog about it, or any other platform, just make a blog about it, because it's a hard work I put in. You know you should see some good heavy platform where it kind of gets reviewed by scientific community too, to validate the idea as well at the same time. And it happened. Thanks to Anuj, he encouraged me, and he showed me how to really go ahead and put it all together. Because when we're doing a project, from a developer's perspective, you might have your GitHub repo all set, but when you're writing, it's a different skill altogether to put everything together and showcase it to the world. So yeah, that's pretty much my story. It was curiosity to get to know how do I solve this, what we are facing as a family, and then I love hackathons, so end up participating in there, and that kind of validated that okay, I'm doing something better. It's for social good for us and for everybody. Thank you, Anuj.
Yes, thank you. And that's very valid, and thanks for sharing your personal story. So really, as you see, right, research paper is nothing but synthesizing the ideas that you're already working on or you plan on working while you're like building your personal projects or maybe building something for hackathon or something, and you can take that idea, go deep, and publish it so that now international audience has a, a view on it. And as you'll see, you get the validation of your work as well. So before we jump right, uh, you might be working already like me, and you'd be thinking why you need it, right? Why you need to write a research paper, you know? So while you work, you need to establish yourself as a thought leader. You need to make sure that people know your work, and and they understand that you are not the guy who just talks about theory, but you are able to implement the stuff. And it can be challenging for many people who are in tech role, because not all the tech roles are customer facing. For example, a typical tech role like a data scientist, they work in the background, they work with the data and create amazing insights out of it, create amazing products out of it. But what customer sees is just the screen of the mobile app or the web browser. Uh, for example, ChatGPT, very famous, right? But as a user of ChatGPT, we are only seeing the interface that ChatGPT provides, the chat window, and the text that we enter and the answer we get. But how the whole ChatGPT was built from ground up, the engineers, the mega minds who are behind it, uh, you only learn about them once you are looking at their research work. For example, one of the people that uh, is known as Godfather of AI, right? Jeffrey Hilton. He is, I believe, he's Canadian only. Um, he, you will not see any mobile app or any web app created by Jeffrey Hilton. You will see a lot of research papers that were published by him to advance the field of AI and data science. So you need a platform to really showcase that you are not just somebody who works for example, Google. You know, it gives you the sort of credibility to your skills and enhances your credentials. And just like this, networking opportunities are important at every stage of career. Uh, no matter whether you're a student, you're a working professional, in academia, networking is of prime importance. Uh, and when you do research, you meet a lot of good people. When you're presenting your research paper, you are presenting in front of a lot of amazing people, and you get a natural connection and networking with them, instead of just behind those computer screens, LinkedIn connections, you know. And as you work through research papers, you need to understand the emerging technologies. And at times, when you're working in a professional environment, you are tasked to work with some older technologies. So, research paper sort of forces you to stay current and stay active and sharp with your knowledge. Uh, this is the prime reason why after spending around 10 years in professional work, I started writing research papers, is to gain all of this. And once I started, I realized it was tough for me to start, because I did not have anybody to guide and and get on. So I'm glad that Preeti is bringing this platform together and bringing the various leaders to sort of guide you guys getting started on your journey. You know. So moving on, when you're in the job seeker, right? And I was talking a story that I recently heard from one of the CEOs of a very famous company here in New Jersey. They want to see your overall profile, not just your resume or not just your LinkedIn profile. You have to build the persona. For example, people has to know Preeti as a expert in her data science and ML domain, not just the Preeti that is apparent from the resume. And when and people are invariably, before going to hire you, going to or give you interview call, they're going to Google you. And once they Google you, and if the top link is of your Google Scholar with a couple of research papers. Now that speaks a lot of volume. Not everybody will do it, and not everybody is going to embark on such journey as writing research paper, but there lies the opportunity. When things are little tough, and then believe me, it's not that tough as well, as we'll see soon. When things are perceived tough, not many people pursue it. And when not many people pursue it, that gives you the niche edge to showcasing your profile. Otherwise, when you're like a college student and just graduating, everybody has some projects from either their school on the resume. Everybody has some coursework to show, and and profiles look very similar. For example, recently my company had open data science intern applications, and within days they got hundreds and hundreds of resumes. Now, just think, and the positions, total positions were like what 10 or 20, and in pile of hundreds and hundreds of resume with people doing the similar uh, coursework and similar projects, how you're going to even stand out unless you know somebody who is already working in the company and you're able to like push through the reference and sign your resume that way. You are left with really showcasing the potential employers your personality through your work, and this is one of the very important personalities, because writing such paper is, as I said, it shows your skill, you're deterministic, and you're hardworking. All the good traits are implied when you publish a research paper, so this really gives your portfolio a shine like nothing else can give. uh, Overall, there are plethora of universal benefits. Uh, when you do research paper, typically you'll be presenting your paper to a conference, but not always. But you get an opportunity to do this, and now you're gaining skills to present complex ideas in front of large set of people. Public speaking and public not just public speaking, but public speaking in technical terminologies. You you sort of gain the big experience, and you develop the overall problem solving skills as we discussed earlier, and create a lasting impact, and sort of you just get a repute now with the paper presented on AI and paper presented, plus very soon it's going to be published. Now Preeti is a reputed AI and ML engineer and researcher. She doesn't have to sort of share anything. Preeti, do you want to share anything? How how was your experience presenting your first paper recently, and tell people exciting benefits you saw?
Yep. I think I'll start from the second question, the exciting benefits. Um, Not only in that conference where I presented my paper, not only that I found that how many people are doing the same work in the same domain that I was doing, and if there are any opportunities to collaborate with them so that we can leverage each other's knowledge base and develop advanced version of what I'm doing. But also I found people from different domains, a diversity of, let's say, topics and researches, which I did not even know that could really exist, because probably I'm biased, right? I'm working in a domain and I can just envision things for this domain. And it gave me more perspective into research as well, into different domains as well. So networking and knowing different domains was and researches from different domains was amazing. That was one benefit I would take. I would go anytime into these conferences, because networking is fine, but what do you get at the end of the day in terms of knowledge is totally different. Um, Overall experience, of course, I was nervous, but um, I think after presenting there, I can't wait for another paper to be accepted and to be where I could again present. Um, One thing, because the kind of questions you get from those places, those conferences dedicated to research, it lets you also rethink your work. And that's what my biggest, I should say, that's the biggest advantage I would again, count in. Because the feedback, again, you're so biased about your work, you might not see it. And in small sessions, small conferences, not conferences, but let's say small gatherings, you might still get one or two pointers. But these gatherings are dedicated to research. So I found myself with amazing feedback that I could take back home and build uh, my research, even for advance my research even further. So that's something that I got. So yes, now I feel like after all that validation as well, I also feel very satisfied that it did not, my projects that I kept working on, and I have been doing many projects out of curiosity. And this one project, it was kind of saw the validation of researchers, scientific community, and that encourages me to keep going. I think that's the best feeling.
Thanks, Priti, for your story. So now comes the big in the room, right? We have always looked at research as some scientist do research papers as some scientist doing incredibly scientific thing in a lab setting and doing uh, presenting that those research in a paper, and that is a type of research paper. That is not just a research paper. That is called the original research paper, where you conduct an actual experiment. And how would it experiment look like in our AIML perspective is, let's say you develop a model to predict the stock prices. You use certain models, you fine tune them, you find their shortcomings, and then you deploy that model, maybe let's say on your local computer, or you take a step further and deploy it in a cloud. That is original research paper, where you you have an idea, you create an implementation of it, you track the research against the outcomes that you thought you'll receive, and present that findings and present those findings in a factually correct manner. That is a typical research paper. Then it comes, and this is a research paper that we have always known and understood. Then comes the review type papers, and this I encourage everyone to do it. It forces you to read about a lot of related technologies and do the analysis of that. So, for example, um, what could be a review research paper? So we have a lot of LLMs who are able to code. One of the ideas for a review research paper would be, you look at all the data that is already out there on the internet, and in your own words and in your own perspective, review each LLM for their ability to do, let's say, complex coding tasks, and present your review. And let's say your eventual review is like maybe XYZ LLM is good for this kind of coding task, and XYZ LLM is that kind of uh, Y kind of coding task. This is a systematic review where you're not developing anything, you're not creating a project, you're not creating a study in a lab setting, but you're synthesizing the existing technologies and and presenting them. This is one I recommend everyone to actually do, because you are in AIML area, and you will have lot of different models to compare against. So you could, depending upon how you're comparing it, you could write an original research paper on it. Let's say if you're implementing, as I was saying, stock price guessing feature, uh, let's say using LSTM model, and you're also implementing it using, let's say, time GPT LLM model. Uh, that could be original research paper. But if you're just talking about those models and their positives and negatives and the strengths and weaknesses, and then giving overall feedback and commentary, that's a review paper. So now you see how you took the same topic, and you could either write the original research paper or a review research paper. And for a review research paper, you just need to read and understand and synthesize the existing information. Then comes a literature reviews. Uh, like they give the broader overview of existing research on a topic. Let's say your natural language uh, text uh, text models like ChatGPT or something, and you're just giving a broader perspective on things, and synthesizing the current knowledge, and you're staying still more on the theoretical background. Whereas in review research paper, you will actually give a commentary and suggest your views and findings. Where here you're still staying theoretical. That's why we don't see many literature review type of research papers. Instead, literature review often gets merged as one of the sections in the paper, as we will see in the uh, in the in the study. So then third is a case study kind of research papers, right? So case study is, let's say, for example, you developed an application, or somebody developed a new AI model few years ago, but now with the change in GPU computational power and CPU powers, you feel like that model is no longer a best possible, best available model to do a specific task. For example, uh, we had, let's say, you might come up, let's say, 5 years from now, GitHub Copilot is not the best coding assistant, but something else has emerged. In that scenario, you take that topic and do a case study on GitHub Copilot, and and do it. That, hey, XYZ thing is no longer the best, and there are multiple things. And the case study can contain multiple case studies. For example, uh, Amazon and any other e-commerce website is selling a product, and you could do a case study if you're not in science but you're in the marketing. You could do a case study that a method of marketing, let's say certain kind of product, worked 5 years ago, but it doesn't work, and this is the case study on this. So that could be another kind of case study. Maybe we see common in medicine the case studies where, let's say, a drug was working on certain kind of bacteria and viruses in the past, but because of the natural resistance that those bacteria have developed, that medicine is no longer working. So that's another case study kind of research paper. Beyond that, you can write short articles as well. And once you're like so super up into the food chain of academia and research, people will invite you to write editorial pieces in their magazines and websites as well. You might have seen the editorial pieces as well. But as you see from this slide, research paper is not just developing a new method or new study. In fact, the as I keep saying, best place to get started, if you do not already have a project in mind, is a review research paper where you already tap into the things that you do every day and work with every day, and write a review about them. That saying. So, any questions here? You can stop me, because this is going to be important for you guys to understand the kind of research papers that you can write. So let me know if you have any uh, questions here. Else we'll move on to the next slide. So moving on, once you've wrote a research paper, and Preeti has some exciting news around this as well. Uh, Once I'm done explaining this slide, uh, it's research papers can be published in traditional uh, publications, which are closed access. So your readers of your research paper, they will need to pay some sort of fee to access your research paper, and research paper is still copyrighted by the publisher. For example, IEEE Access, right? That's a very famous publication for publishing your research papers. But the typical reader has to spend like $35 per paper, or they must have a subscription from their company to read the uh, research paper. This kind of traditional publications are good for like big research, and you want to have a like a real reputation, uh, and you're like famous, so you could try for this. But these are traditionally closed access research papers. And then it comes to the open access. So closed access means your readers need to pay some money to access the research paper either through subscription or through one-time payment. And the open access is you are your readers are sort of allowed to read your work for free. And typically in this case, you as an author will be bearing some article for processing charge, as known in publications, which is APC. You'll and there so the APC is involved, or the publications processing charge is involved in closed access journals as well, but it's relatively very minimal compared to uh, the open access journals. So, for example, IEEE has some open access journals as well, which are not where you readers don't need to pay anything, but the cost of publishing you as an author have to bear is anywhere from $1,800 or higher. And these are famous for multidisciplinary researches. And depending upon where you are in your career stage and how important that research to you, you can either choose a closed access or open access. And then there is another kind of open access uh, publications, which are green open access layer like ARXIV, where you as an author are allowed to publish your own research paper free of charge. There will be some sort of moderation on those platforms, uh, but you don't need to pay traditionally any fee to publish, as well as your readers don't need to uh, sort of pay money to read your work as well. Uh, this has the highest number of papers, as you can understand. And one of the good parts with this kind of open access is let's say you're working on a research paper. You have completed the research paper, but you're not sure if it's fully polished and fully ready to be published. You can submit the pre that unpolished and work in progress copies of your research paper are known as preprints, and you can submit your preprint to, for example, ARXIB, and people will review your preprint and give you the feedback. When I wrote my first research paper, we had published it in ARXIV, and we got some amazing feedback based on which we were able to improve our paper and then submit it for IEEE. So now this so many of these traditional subscription-based uh, journals allow you to publish the preprint version of your same paper in ARXIV. You definitely should check with your publisher, but most people allow it. and that way readers can have a uh, unpolished copy of your paper if they choose not to pay any money for, and then still sort of take benefits after of your research paper. So, and Priti, you want to add something about ARXIV? I know you are working very hard on it, and
Yeah, thank you. Yes, as Anuj mentioned, the closed access for IEEE, I have two news here. For IEEE, if somebody wants to go through that route, then these are a couple of, I'm putting it in the chat, couple of conferences that I made a list of, but you can always come up with your own choice of conference. Now, I talked to a couple of sponsors for these. They cost somewhere, on an average, the cost of these I found is somewhere around $400 to $900, depending on the locality, CAD or USD. But sponsors may help you with this um, only if you share your project abstract and the overall outline with them, and if they like it, then they may sponsor this for you. So basically that would that would be your registration cost, which I just said could be $400 to $900. So they would be able to sponsor your registration costs for these, but you have to share the plan with them. That's the whole idea. If they like it, they sponsor it, but they might not steal your idea. That's what we are aiming for. For the open access archive, we have 3 to 4 endorsers. And why do we need endorsement? Despite that, it's available for people to submit for free. Um, if you are registering yourself with archive as independent researcher or unaffiliated, the platform might want to still validate or recognize you as a researcher who actually exists, and whom they can um, they just want somebody to say that, okay, this is the real researcher, right? So they when you're a new researcher and you don't have any affiliation, you are an independent researcher, you need endorsement just to be recognized as a researcher, and to have more chances that the platform will publish it and would not force you to like put it on hold. But if you are affiliated and you have your like if you write your company name or university institute name, and if it can just validate, then you don't really need an endorsement. So that's how it works. But good news is that we have 3 to 4 people. The positive side of it is also that they would endorse you once they review the paper, and this is how it would work anyways with IEEE or other conferences too. Your paper will be reviewed by other researchers. They would provide you feedback, and they would vote, live on it, whether the paper should be accepted or not, with the comments. So same thing with our endorsers is that they would want to review it and provide you the feedback, and would likely tell you whether they want to endorse it or not after what you have prepared for them. So yeah, that's the good news, that you don't have to bring the endorsers if you don't have. Usually the people who could endorse you on archive are established researcher on that platform, on archive platform. So in this case, one example can be Anuj. He already published there. Platform acknowledges his work, recognizes him as a researcher, and he can be one endorser. So that's the whole scenario right now, and I'm happy. It took me some time, but I got for the team.
but yeah, thanks, Preeti, for sort of
Thank you.
bringing things together for the team, and it's important to have that kind of a support when you start this journey, because otherwise it can be a little overwhelming. You have to write the research paper, then you have to look for a publication house and then publish your paper and then work on the feedbacks and comments and all kinds of stuff. So I wish when I first wrote a my first paper, I had some support like this. The life would have been a lot easier. So thank you for bringing this to the community. So moving on, this is the part that Preeti was talking about. So research papers can be published through conferences as well, and this is really good for your profile overall. Uh, Research papers in the conferences are typically a standard size of 6 to 10 paper pages. 6 to 7 is recommended, and they get still reviewed, uh, and your paper work is reviewed by other expert researchers in the field, and specifically they have the same weight as journal papers in computer science and engineering domains. And many places I have heard they are actually weighted little higher than regular journal publications because you're not only just writing the paper, but you're getting an approval to present in a reputed conference like an IEEE conference or ACM conference. And many times when you're not fully ready with your conference research paper, some conferences allow you to publish your abstract, which is like a short abstract of what your research paper will be about, and get a feedback on it, and based on the feedback can be expanded to full papers later. Conferences do come with some sort of conference attendance charge, and I'm glad that Priti was able to work out a deal with Google to sort of get a sponsoring on one of the conferences. So that's an exciting place to be. You get free food, you present your paper, you meet a lot of cool people around the world, and you just have a real sort of blast in a conference. So this is one good way for, especially for people from our domain, computer science, data science, engineering, s- uh, STEM field. Conferences really are weighted really high. Uh, so moving on, now we are getting into a research paper, and this is a general outline of what a research paper uh, sort of looks like. The research paper at the base of it is your introduction of your talk, what your research is going to be about. You set the context and the motivation and research and your hypothesis or your research question. Then you present a literature review of existing research that is done on the concepts around your own idea. Very rarely you'll be doing an extremely novel research that nobody has thought about in the past, but most likely the most times you will be working on an idea that is extension uh, of existing research, or it's a shortcoming of an existing research as we know it as uh, a, a gap in the current research. And to explain that gap, literature review section sort of plays important role. Preeti was telling me about how she found out that existing projects that were there for accessible medical imaging, they had a critical gap of they were too costly and too cumbersome to execute, and she wanted to fill that research gap. And for that, she worked on the research methodology. But while she worked on her own personal research methodology to create an AI powered medical imaging system, she credited the existing research that was done on the topic in literature review. And this establishes the academic credibility of your research. And it is important to sort of give the credit to other people. uh, based on whose work you're building your own research. This is where your methodology section after literature review will detail your research. Maybe you use particular models to build something, the system architecture diagram, how you deployed that project, and what were some cool innovative ways you used to do this. Is you all describe in methodology. And once you implement methodology is like implementation of your project or your research, and then you do the results and discussions, present your findings, data analysis, and interpretations, and be honest about it. For example, you might have had a hypothesis that ChatGPT 3.0, which is like a new model, is best at coding, and that was your hypothesis. And based on it, you build your research methodology. But in the end result, if you figured out that hey, maybe Claude was still the best one, you present the facts. You do not make up facts. You present your real findings and present the data analysis and interpretations. So one of the main key concepts is even though you might have hypothesized something, but if the results are not matching your hypothesis, that's still a valid research paper. You are just proving the alternative methodology. Sometimes the results will match exactly what you envisioned for, but technical integrity when you do your research is of paramount. Uh, Introduction, literature review, and methodology and result and discussion. If you master these four pillars, you will be able to maneuver all of your research papers around them. And beyond that, all the research papers have some usual suspects, which are like supporting cast, abstract, conclusions, references. References are key. No research, as I said, no research papers are complete complete novel idea. You are building on some previous work, and you should uh, provide a proper reference. Moving on to today's one of the agenda is introduction. It sets the tone for your reader, why they should be reading your research paper. So it has opening elements, problem statements, and so on and so forth. So let's quickly go there. So introduction, right, is the perfect structure of an introduction. So research paper's introduction is the first core section of the paper, and the first paragraph, right, and then typical opening introduction will be four to five paragraphs. You provide a uh, hook, hook statement to sort of get the reader's attention. Like something like ChatGPT is revolutionizing the coding in software. That's like a statement, and you're like sort of gathering the attention. How it's revolutionizing is you explain by giving the background context and giving the overview of the field and explain why a little bit of your research matters. Then you state your problem statement, that what is the problem that you're trying to solve or trying to shed lights on during your entire 6 to 7 pages of research paper. You introduce your problem statement. So you see how you create a hook statements to sort of get the reader's attention, provide the background on context of the technologies. For example, if you're introducing ChatGPT and LLM, give a brief context of what ChatGPT is, what LLM is. We do not go into assumption writing research paper that everybody is aware of all the terminologies. And your research papers might be reviewed by interdisciplinary researchers as well. So you take that into consideration and write write your background and context. Then introduce your problem statement that you're trying to solve, and talk it through, identifying gaps in current research and limitations. A lot of times, what you'll find is uh, the current research has something that the authors of that paper could not complete because maybe they did not have budget, or maybe they did not have enough time to complete it, or maybe it was, if they tried to include that research in their existing research, it would have made the research too big to comprehend. So there you explain, on building on their work, how your research is going to be significant. That is, you're bridging a gap. For example, Preethi's paper is bridging a gap of high cost and high technicality involved in figuring out medical imaging for visually impaired people. So that's a critical gap is filling. You note the potential impact of and benefits of the research paper, that more people, for example, more people will be able to access X-rays and CT scans, even if they do not have strong vision. And then clearly state your research questions, your hypothesis, and emphasize on objectives and purposes of the study, and and really give the overall rounded structure to your objective of the research. Last paragraph, typically I recommend putting is your outline of your research paper, what readers should be expecting. Let's say you're going to talk about methodologies, summaries, and high level high level design of your paper, and that is what a holistic introduction section looks like. About 4 to 5 paragraphs, about no more than 500 words, giving you hook statement, the background, giving you the introduction to your question, then highlighting the uh, critical gap in the current research, and then introducing um, your focus, and then methodology and overview of your research. You give the outline of your paper. So a strong introduction is a window to getting people to sort of read your paper and read your work. So with that, I'll conclude it here because I don't want to go to other sections, and we can focus on introduction as a first topic for our research papers, and we take it from there. So yeah, uh, happy to answer any questions on the presentation we had, and and if you guys have any ideas of you what you want to sort of write, we can brainstorm.
Yep, I would encourage everybody to unmute yourselves or put it in the chat. We can brainstorm together whether we want to go ahead. Any of you, do you have anything in the mind? What made you join the session? And then we can continue.
So going forward, we'll be looking at the other pillars of the research as well. But one thing, if you guys had to take out of this session and practice, I would recommend to write the introduction from now till the next section. Try to write a small introduction. As I said, no more than 500 words. And believe me, I say 500 words. It is, once you guys start writing, it is actually going to be a reverse challenges to fit all of these ideas into 500 words. First, when I heard about 500 words, I was like shocked. However, I'm going to write 500 words, and then all of a sudden, I just kept writing, and sometimes your text gets repetitive. You have to really work on your language. But
Yep.
yeah, I recommend you to think of a topic on which you might want to maybe write a original research paper or a review type research paper and write its introduction based on this format.
So, with that, Sergey, I wanted to add something.
Yeah, just wanna hi. I just wanna ask. So it should be like more focused on technology or of usage of some technology and the improvement, like architecture. So because I met several papers so we read in we have few sessions of reading and these papers they mostly about Iraq and but I met also papers that focused on like to building a software, mostly describing how it better use some kind of technology in that particular area. For example, in supply chain, how we can use
Right.
specific
So that's a good.
technology.
So that's a really good topic, and I think the best way for me is to share a couple of papers. Just give the topic highlight and explain. Okay. So these are some of the papers that I had worked with some of the co-authors. And if you see this paper, accelerating time to market, role of generative AI in product development, this research paper actually built a entire new system to dis to sort of uh, work on an idea. And so if using Gen AI is really good or not when you want to release a software product. There we developed a real system. Uh, and that is, if we go back to our slides of types of research papers, uh, that is a original research paper, where we actually build something, maybe a model, maybe a project, maybe a software architecture, and we presented our findings. Preeti's research paper, which uh, which soon should be published, is also a original research paper because she builds an AI-based software to help medical imaging. So here we are building a software. For us, building a software, building an AI model is original research paper. Maybe for somebody who is in a medicine field, synthesizing a new drug for, let's say, a specific type of cancer is a new original research. So based on the domain that you are in, the type of research paper that you write varies. But yeah, so that's the original research paper. Now then comes the review type of research paper. And let me go back to the tab that I was
Um,
share this tab. If you see, let if you see this, so application state management. This is again, I'm talking about software architecture and your front end and back end and cloud and so many other stuff. But I'm not building a new project. I'm not building. Actually, I should be able to share this uh, paper with you guys if you guys want to sort of look at the preprint of this paper. Uh, uh, Here, I'm not building something new. Here, I am building uh, sort of taking in every uh, all the sort of considerations and then just synthesizing using my own understanding and my own expertise and my own working with the softwares, what is the best way to uh, sort of use the uh, various libraries in JavaScript to do the application state management. Let me share this link in the chat if you guys want to. But this is a preprint. So this is where I was talking that using the ARX IV, This was an unpolished paper that we just wrote and published and got the feedback on. But here, if you see, I did not, if once you read it, you will realize I did not actually develop a new software. These are like some sample code snippets, but there is nothing new that is built. I'm presenting various angles and perspectives, but there is nothing new here. It's still a research paper where you're synthesizing the information. Does that
If
answer your question, Sergey?
Yeah, it's you completely respond to my questions. Yeah, the second question. I got the second question. So, how to check? How you often check if it already invented or if maybe somebody already write some paper about my topic. So, what's the best way how to
Okay,
find that
so
information?
that's a good idea, and let's do that actually. Uh, Tell me the topic that you want to. So I always go to scholar.google, but there are more of such places to look for. But tell me the idea. Maybe let's say I'll pick an idea for you that has a generative AI and cloud computing. Okay.
Okay.
Now, if you see, you will find a lot of research papers, and you can type in more detailed. So let's say somebody was looking for a building a research system on edge computing. Now you look at this paper, you read the paper, and in most parts, an author, a present author, right? They have built an entire system. If you look at this paper, they would give uh, s- current limitations or gaps, or once you read the research paper, you'll be able to find current limitations or gaps, or most or a section like this future direction. So in the future direction, they will mention what new can be added to this paper. Okay, and then they will talk about it, and you don't need to necessarily take their idea into consideration, but what they are telling is their research has more longer road to go, and then you can build your new system on top of their system to bridge that gap. Or
so,
maybe you, yeah, Priti.
sorry. So are we saying to add to Sergey's question? I have the same question. Are we saying that take the current, very current look research papers and skim through them and see if they address his question is say about,
Holistically.
yeah, about this topic, and it may happen that the very first paper I get in the in the, yeah, the latest paper I get might not really have exact uh, problem that I'm trying to solve. They might not address it, or they might not really give a timeline, address a timeline that okay, this has been the in the past. This is how this research has been. This topic has been, and now this is how we are presenting. So, are you suggesting that pick like 4 or 5 recent papers, go through them if they are addressing the
Yes.
topic?
And
Uh,
ensure that you are doing a good keyword search, not a generic search that I just did. Okay. Go very deep into your keyword search. Google Scholar is a good place. Okay. So I'll share the link with the group here. It's a good place, and I'll get you more links as well, similar to Google Scholar, where you can look. Uh, but let's say medical imaging, right?
to, I was thinking to add to it. I'm not sure if this is a good approach or good or bad, but I also subscribe to a couple of Google groups I recently found. So I just go on Google Groups and I type my keyword, as you said, and then I try to find if there are any current active groups, because I can find collaborators, plus I might find the mention of the same topic or domain that I'm looking into. And that's one way of, that's how I do it.
Right, right. I mean, the other way that you guys do in your research paper reading group, you're
Yeah.
reading research paper, you'll be able to find the shortcomings and future directions of that research paper. And if that idea aligns with your career goals and academic goals, you build on top of it, you know.
Yep. I think that is
You-
Sergey's previous. That was Sergey's previous question. What are we uh, trying to work on? Is that a framework? So I brainstormed and I thought, okay, what kind of support we can come up with this particular group. Now, when I say support, it's collective. So if you have something, you let us know, and it will be a support for everybody. But I was thinking it could be a data set that does not exist or lacks, has a gap there. Like recently, I have been reading VLMs, and the data set, at least in remote sensing, is not really very good. So there is an area of improvement with the VLM performance itself. If we could help with a good data set, so we can come up with that. It can be a framework. It can be just a systematic literature review. You compare things, or you just read through. Like Sergey, we are reading the paper right now. Sergey is helping read a white paper, and it's quite in depth, that paper. He knows more than me about it. But the point is, if we can find something, either we can put an advancement to that paper, or let's say you see a gap because you read a lot of papers and then you see and you think this does not add up. As simple as highlighting that through your case study is okay. Does that add up,
yes.
Sergey?
Yeah, this just want to share maybe only, I have some thought how to not to improve, but make it like, this paper that we have several reading sessions. They called KAG and using of such technology. But this technology is not open, like it's open source, but it's not free. Yeah, and I want to use it in my like business scenario, but I cannot because it's like it's copyrighted. So and I have an idea like to replace and improve, no, remake such
Very good.
technology. Yeah, and to use it in my own product. So is it like the way how I can like write the paper that I want to replace and make it make my own paper more simple way, in more simple way, but so I have a concern how to check, is it like is it become original, I mean not uh, copy paste from the KAG paper. So who will tell me that it's not plagiate, and it's
So when you
it's not
build,
copy.
right? So in academia, right? That's a very good topic, and let me share this thing. So because they have published a research paper, they want the scientific community to consume their work. They open source it, so they want the scientific community to use it. Okay, so you can,
Mhm.
using their work, you can create, or taking inspiration from their work, you can uh, write your own paper, but you have to ensure that you give them credit,
References.
where
Mhm.
you do. So you provide a reference of, hey, when I started working on this, uh, there is a similar work done on this topic, and we want to acknowledge the previous work that was done, and we are improving the previous work by, let's say, for example, making it more efficient and um more normal to use in other products. Their implementation is very complex, and what we are building will be more cheaper and more efficient to use in our company or XYZ. So you give the due credit and then implement your new ways. As long as you're not copy pasting their code completely, and you're not like just like and just renaming as your work, it is okay. In academia, as I said, right, nothing is brand new.
Yep.
You build upon the previous work, In fact, there's a famous quote: if you
Mhm.
think that your work was new and novel, that means you did not look hard for references in previous work.
Okay,
So
see.
yeah, yeah. So you can use it. Just make sure you give them the credit. Is what I
Yeah,
mean.
that's what I'm thinking because the link you gave me for that paper, the KG, um, I think it's available to people to read and understand. And as long as it is out there, you can always put it, give it credit that this is where your hypothesis is coming from. And it doesn't really have to be the improvement, it can be your own version. Like people are using agentic AI on certain, on based on certain researches, but that's their own version of those agents, right? And you can always like how what are the chances that your code, your original code would match exact line by line with somebody else's research, even if they did the exact same, like they had the exact same problem statement. So
Yeah. I
what are,
mean, look at think of it, right? If you're like trying to make a platform to sell, let's say, computers, right? And laptops, your platform is going to look very similar to, let's say, as Best Buy in Canada or not, I don't know. But Amazon is everywhere, right? So, Amazon, it's going to look something similar like Amazon. That did not does not mean that you copied it. But if you used anything that was Amazon's code, and if they allowed you to use it by publishing it in a research paper or something, then you can just give them a credit. But beyond that, you can always propose a new implementation which is your unique and ensure to just make sure that they are different. You're not copy pasting somebody's work. That
yeah,
is plagiarism, and it has a significant consequences on in academia, you know. And even if you're like if you're owner of your company, they can sue you. Like if you're just like, simply using their work and not uh, crediting them and not adhering to license law.
yeah, yep. But having said that, if it requires any kind of cloud credits, we are trying to talk to Google to provide us some cloud credit so that we can, people who are into implementation side of it and they want to, let's say, test their own work based on something they saw, whether creating platform, creating data set, or just some kind of service. They told me to submit a proposal to them so that again they go through it. If they think that this should be supported, they will support, and then we can hopefully get some Google Cloud credits to play with. So yeah, that's for everybody. If you think you should, you have that, then let me know. You can always send me a message. I have a question from Aditi. But Sergey, uh, are you okay with the answers, or shall we
Yeah, yeah, it's okay. I
brainstorm more?
got all the answers today. Yeah,
Okay, perfect.
thank you.
Aditi says, thank you, Sergey. Aditi says, I was wondering how we should handle inconclusive results if we choose to publish research. If I may start with the answers, and then I don't if you have anything, please feel free to add. I think about the inconclusive, it could be inconclusive because of the limitation, different types of limitations as well, or you tested some hypothesis and well, it did not really go with, or the experimental outputs, they are not, they are inconclusive. The best way is to literally address them in the paper and let the readers know that you use these kind of these are the hypotheses you tested, this is your experiment output, and these were the limitations because of which you don't think you could proceed beyond this, at least in this paper, right? um, Call for, put a call for action in your paper, future work, or
Yes.
just that you want uh, some, if there is a support that's limited, ask for support too. So I think putting it out as is, that this is what you have done and these are the limitations, but that should be okay. That should be okay.
Yes, Preeti, you summarized this pretty nicely. Aditi, it's not it doesn't frame you as a negative researcher. If you say that you are not able to obtain the results that you originally hoped for and originally you hypothesized for, that is not always is the case. Just think of it as cancer research, for example, right? Not every time you do the research, you're going to be successful because it's a complex topic, finding a medicine. Maybe I'm taking it too far. Let's think of it as you had like 20 sets of programming questions and you done your research by using ChatGPT to solve those programming questions. And you had hoped for a 80% success rate when ChatGPT solved those questions, but your results came out to be 60%. That is of no fault to you. That is the limitation of the current ChatGPT model, and you should mention it in your research paper uh, as a one finding of your research, so that the people in the future who are looking to use ChatGPT as their coding assistant, they know that they are not going to get 100% accuracy. They are only going to get 60%. And B, you're setting a stage for future research as well. When new models of ChatGPT or Google Gemini or Claude will come, you yourself, or maybe let's say in this case, Sergey is going to take your research and run those tests again, and maybe at that point the model is at 80% accuracy, and then they are able to publish a new finding and new research and are able to take your work forward. That happens all the time in the research domain. Somebody takes your work forward, you take somebody else's work forward, then that's how we collectively uh, move ahead. The only
Right.
thing that here I would say is not allowed is, even though your results did not match your original expectations, making up those results, because ultimately somebody or someone is going to replicate your experiment one day, one fine day, and if they are not able to match your finding, then they might complain that the author tried to sort of use false data, and that is what we want to avoid at any cost. So yeah, it doesn't frame you as a negative researcher or a bad researcher. In fact, if anything, it actually points that you are a very ethical and very honest researcher.
Um, I'll say let's go with a couple more questions. We have time, and then I can go over what could be the scope of the next coming sessions and how can we like together build something if everybody is interested.
Sure.
Yep.
I'm open to more
And
questions if we have.
yep.
One more question. Yeah, can will we have like session, like example session of writing? So maybe you or somebody will, show us some, you know, some example because yeah, it will be helpful for us.
Sure. Well, we didn't have that in plan because it's kind of a group, and this is how we'll come up with the plan for the next sessions, most likely. This is a great way, I guess. I'll put it in the plan, and I'll try to reach out, including Anuj. I'll try to reach out to experts for their time. If not, then I can try to do a workshop. I can try to host a workshop myself. But yeah, I'll check with other experts as well.
Right. And if you guys have more questions even after we disconnect, feel free to reach out to me or Preeti. We are fairly active on Discord. Discord will be active as well as I'm putting my LinkedIn as well in the chat if you guys want to connect. And I'm I regularly answer as well. I believe both of us are on ADP list, Preeti. If you have more one-on-one questions you feel
Yeah.
are not comfortable asking in a larger group, more specific questions to your need, we are happy to help there as well. So we have another
Yes.
question from Anurup.
Mhm.
Uh, so you are a student and you are not really working right now. Uh, no. So putting an independent researcher does not have any negative impact on you. In fact, in many situations, um, you would want to do it. I use independent researcher even though I work for my company, just because my research work is not directly tied to my employer and it's completely independent of them. And for that reason, I use independent researcher, uh, and my affiliation is to myself only. Uh,
Right.
and
Um,
I have not seen that to be of any negative hindrance to my ability to conduct and publish research work.
right. I think his question, thank you, Anuj. His question is also around. I wanted to know if him being independent researcher and he's a new graduate, would that affect any like the chances of him getting into accepted into the conferences? So basically, he does not have any work experience. He's a new graduate. Um, to answer this question, let me know if I'm wrong, Anuj. But I think as long as your research reviewed by other, like it's peer reviewed, right? And as long as they vote that it stands a chance, it's a good research, and they accept it, it gets accepted.
Yeah, your independent researcher tag has nothing to do with
Yeah,
your ability to get your paper accepted in conference or publishing your paper.
yeah,
In
it's just your
in
work.
research domain, yeah, the work is the only thing that matters, and you
Yeah,
should not be uh, shy about putting it. If you want, you can put your school name in your profile, but eventually you will be changing it because then you'll be working somewhere and you might want to do it. You can put a GDG Surrey member as well if you like. This is also like a professional association, although you're not working to get paid, but you're part of this community. And I see a lot of people do that if you don't want to put independent researcher, but a independent researcher is absolutely perfectly fine and has no negative impact on your papers.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Bye bye.
take care.
Bye.
Bye, see you again.